Hello, hi. Welcome to my channel. In my channel, we usually talk about literature, and today we are going to do the same. It's just that today I have a very interesting, not concept, story, whatever you want to call it. It's a surprise. We will explore it together. Okay, so I won't waste a lot of time, but I would request you to subscribe to my channel. Yeah, please do that. Okay, so let's start it, okay? So, do you not know what legends are? Legends are traditional stories about heroes or creatures that often blend history and myth. See, there is a difference between myth and legend. Myth, they it talks about it's more on a magical aspect. There's a lot of magic. Talks about the gods and creations and like magical creatures. But legend, on the other hand, it's more on a practical level, on a physical level, or it blends a little history as well, as we can see in the slides. Robin Hood being the legend. So that is the basic difference between a legend and a myth. So today I'm going to present to you a nonsense legend, and I hope that you are excited to know that what legend can be nonsense because I am excited to show you. Let me introduce you to. Oh, it doesn't work like that. Let me introduce you to Jabberwocky. Now, Jabberwocky is, see, I am calling it a legend, but Jabberwocky is basically a poem written by Lewis Carroll, the writer or the author of uh, Alice in the Wonderland, and this poem was a part of its second. What is the name? I'm sorry, my memory. I have a goldfish memory. I'm extremely sorry. Let me just try to remember. Uh, um, a glass through the looking doors. That one. So yeah, it was a part of that, and I hope that it makes sense to you that why do we call it a nonsense poem. So let me read the poem once for you so that you understand that where it is coming from, why nonsense, why are we, because it is literally called the nonsense. I'm not making it up. It's called the nonsense poem. Okay? So let me just read it once for you, okay? 'Twas brilling, and the sleety tope did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borogovers, and the rats outgrabe. Beware the jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jubjub bird, and shun the freemious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time in mansome for he sought. So rested he by the tumtum tree, and stood awhile in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy, O frabjous day, Callooh, Callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brilling, and the sleethy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave, all mimsy were the borogoves, and the mermaids outgrabe. So that is the poem. Very rhythmic. We can see the rhythm. There's this pattern of A, B, tove, grove, wave, grabe, sun, shun, catch, snatch. Uh, and yeah, it does sound melodious somehow. But tell me honestly, how much of it did make sense to you? Obviously, there is a story, and we do get the story. But let's talk about the first stanza itself. How much of the first stanza did you understand? Because when I had read it for the first time, I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was quite clueless, honestly. And it makes sense because it makes sense because because Lewis Carroll used playful, invented words that don't exist in real language. He have made words. He had created new words, and it's different from coining. See, we coin a new word when we want to express something, and the word is not already existing. So we coin those words. But he had playfully created new words. just for this poem. So yeah, that is why it doesn't make any sense to us, and that's why we call it a nonsense poem. But it is done brilliantly. Uh, I mean, the reason why he have done that, see, he wanted to create a magical world, right? And in that magical world existed the magical creatures. No, he had to create creatures which is not normal on Earth, right? So what he did was he blended the creatures. I actually the other day I saw in the social media as well, in the with the help of AI. What they did is they fused two animals together, and a new creature was made up out of that. So like crocodile and a tiger mixed fused together, and whole new creature with like more furious and uh, yeah, it looked kind of cool to me. And that's the exact same thing Carol had done without the help of AI though. I mean, it was just imagination. It was amazing. So, for example, if I have to tell you, you can imagine it as like take two animals, I would say a snake and a chicken, and try to blend them together. Okay, so now imagine a snake, like a black mamba maybe, and having like yellow little wings. So that is a creature. So how would you explain that creature? He have like literally taken the word snake and chicken and blended together. So what can it be? It can be snake, chicken, snitch, snitch, or maybe it can be chicken, chickcake, chick. Well, I mean, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, a sort of like that. So he created new words to explain new things on a different world, on another world. Okay. So let's move on. What I will do is that I'll dissect the first stanza only because that is the most difficult stanza of this poem. Other than that, every next stanza is just telling the stories because even though it is quite playful, we still understand the meaning, right? We still understand that there is a story going on. And this very instinctive thing to do it is that we try to guess the meaning when something doesn't make sense to us, or we just are not aware of the exact meaning of that particular word. We try to fit in into some sentence and make some meaning out of it. And sometimes some stupid people like me, what we tend to do is we try to make see a resemblance, maybe in the sound, or maybe in the spelling, or maybe just in the pronunciation. Like, if it resembles a word, it gives the similar meaning to us. I know it's an error, and please do not do that. But yeah, so the story had made sense to me as well, even when I read it for the first time. But yeah, first stanza, it really was very, what do I say? दिमाग का कचड़ा करने वाला. But then after going through it a bit, I get to know that Carroll has actually explained that uh, in the movie as well. I guess he had explained that the meaning of those words, or yeah, and at the end of the day, it's up to your interpretation, how you want to imagine it. So, yeah, I have taken some of his explanations, some of my perspectives, and yeah, let's go through the first stanza. 'Twas brilling, and the sleepy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave, all mimsy were the borogoves, and the mummy-rats outgrave. So the first word it was, I is apostrophe here, so it was brilling. Now, brilling is the time, the broiling time. Broiling time is the late afternoon or maybe very early evening when you start preparing for the dinner. And broiling as in the heat going directly to the food. So that is the broiling time, the evening time. So it was evening time. And the sleepy toves. Now the sleepy is basically portmanteau. Portmanteau are the words where we, as I told you, bringing two words to taking two words, bringing them together, fusing them, and making a new word out of that. A very common example in literature that we give is brunch. bringing breakfast and lunch together, making it a brunch. So, brunch is the meal we eat after breakfast and before lunch. So, similarly, so sleepy is the portmanteau of slimy and light. So slimy, we all know slimy, that squishy, liquidy stuff, and light is actually flexible, very flexible, easily bending, a cat-like creature. So you know how cats are. They're slimy, they're liquidy, so easily bending. So that is sleepy. Toph is a creature that he had created, and he had actually explained it, but I kind of forgot about that because, yeah, it was a combination of a reptile and mm, frog, maybe, and something like that. So it was a creature, new creature that he was trying to explain. So it was brilliant time, and there is a creature's toe, which is like sleepy. Did Geyer and Gimbal in the wave. So Geyer is basically this thing. I mean, try to. It is just an example. You see that hook. It helps in rotation. You know, we can rotate it 360 degrees. So that is a Geyer spinning, rotating. So that is gyre. So whatever that creature it is gyring and gimbal in the wave. So wave he had explained as a green field, just the ground. But how I had imagined it as that the spiders make their web and they live on that web, right? So I had also imagined something like that, a place made by them to live on that. So it wasn't a surprise to me that it was just the green ground that they were talking about. So the guy and the gimbal in the wave. So whatever that creature is, it is 3D in nature, and it is just spinning, just spinning around. You know, that's like a habit of that creature. All mimsy were the Borogoths. Now, mimsy is again a portmanteau of miserable and flimsy. So flimsy, weak, thin, and we all know miserable. But mimsy have another meaning as well. Mimsy is like not very important, sort of. But I am not sure which version is the correct one. But here the mimsy makes sense to me when it is a blend of miserable and flimsy. So we will go with this one. So Borgovs, another creature, and this Mimsy being the property of that creature, that it is a very thin, miserable looking creature, you know. Now, Borogovs, again, let's dissect the word itself. So, Borogov is basically Boro sounds like burrow. Burrow is the ground dwelling, the animals which make the burrow to live under the ground. Gove sounds like grove, and grove is basically the wooden area where a bird might live. So bringing them together, we make borogoves, as in uh, a bird, a ground-dwelling bird which live near the woods and they make a burrow to live. So that is borogov. And those borogovs, they looked really miserable and thin. That sort of a bird. And Momerats outgrade. So Mome is Mome, a serious looking. Again, the another feature of another rat. Rat is again a creature. So rat is like a green pig and a rat-like creature. So create that creature in your mind, and that is called rat. And outgrave is that oddly grunty sound. You know how grunty sound the pigs create. So those that sort of a sound. So that was the first stanza. Basically, nothing, just the introduction of this magical world, and he's trying to tell us that these sort of creatures live in this world, and these are their properties. So toads are sleepy in nature, and they gyre and gimble in their wave, and borogoves are mimsy. They look very thin and they look miserable, and then there is rat, and rat is basically they create this oddly grunty sound. That, you know, the introduction of his world. Now, as I told you that from the next stanza we can just see the story how it unfolds. So let's go through it. Okay, next stanza comes like, beware the jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jubjub bird and shun the frumious bandersnatch. So there's a father who is warning his son that beware the Jabberwock. So Jabberwock is another creature, and he's saying that beware of that, my son. The jaws that bite, he has very strong jaws. The claws that catch, the very sharp claws. So that is actually, if you go into the internet and search Jabberwock, you will probably see a creature. It is like a serpent dragonish creature with a very sharp jaw and, like, claws and teeth. So that sort of a creature Jabberwock is. Now beware the Jubjub bird and shun. Shun means avoid or stay away from the Jubjub bird. Now when you hear the sound Jubjub bird, it's not onomatopoeia. It's not like the literal meaning of the sound, but the sound itself suggests to your imagination. When I heard this Jub Jub bird, it gave me, like, a huge humongous bird with like very small wings, something like ostrich, having a lot of attitude. So that's a Jub Jub bird. The Freemius Bandersnatch. Freemius. I mean, doesn't it sound like furious on another level? It's like good, better, best. So angry, furious, Freemius. I mean, that's how I have taken the word. I don't know what that little meaning is, but yeah, that Frumious Bandersnatch. Again, Bandersnatch being another creature. So basically, he's warning his son against those creatures, that be aware of that and avoid them. Mm, do not fight with them. Basically, what he's trying to say. But his son, being the hero of the story, he took his vorpal sword in hand, long time in Mansum for he sought. So rested he by the tumtum tree and stood awhile in thought. Vorpal sword. So you see the name of the sword. I call it a legend for a reason. His sword has a name. Come on. Like, Excalibur. So his sword has a name, Vorpal sword in hand. Long time in Mansum's for he sought. Now he's looking for his enemy. He's looking for the Jabberwock to slay him. So, and Mansum is basically the place where he's looking for his enemy. And it was a long time, so he got tired and he rested by the tum tum tree. Now, I really want to know, how did you imagine this tum tum tree? I mean, how I imagined it as a very short stem, a very thick stem with a very dense, cloudy leaf, and the color of those leaves being maybe darkish purple, like the darkish shade of the purple, like almost going to the blackish or maybe reddish side. So yeah, that's how I had imagined the tom-tom tree. And stood a while in thought, and he's just thinking about something. Now, and as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood and burbled as it came. So a fish, off ish, off ish. I mean, something which wasn't related to that adventure or his enemy. It was like something offish thought. Maybe he was thinking about anything, his girlfriend, or maybe the baked potatoes. Anything like offish thought. He stood, or maybe just he was not thinking anything. It was just, how that moment when just brain just keeps thinking something and you're not actually aware that what actually you are thinking. Well, I'm going too long in this. Oh, just offish thought. He stood. The Jabberwock with the eyes of flame. So now Jabberwock has the eyes of flame as well. Came whiffling through the tulgey wood. Now whiffling, basically whistling. That's what I had taken out from this word because it sounds similar. It resembles. So he has this whistling sound, and he came from this tulgey wood. Tulgey, uh, scary wood, I would say, and burbled as it came. So burble, basically murmuring, whispering, badbadana, if I say in Hindi. So yeah, basically the enemy came to him. Now the next stanza goes. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went smack, he left it dead, and with it said he went galloping back. So galloping means the fast motion in a leapy way, the horse's movement, uh, the fast movement. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. Basically, the action that is happening, he's slaying the Jabberwock. So 1, 2, 1, 2. The vorpal blade went snicker snack. That sound it is making, snicker snack, snicker snack. he left it dead and with his head, and he's quite cruel to be very honest. He killed him, and he's taking its head. He went to Galloping back, and he is going back to home now. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous Kalu Kale, he chortled in his joy. Now the father is saying he's quite happy that his son has killed or slayed the Jabberwock. So he's saying that has thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Beamish, bright, or smiling with joy, or brave, I would say. So yeah, that beamish boy, come to my arms. A frabjous, come on, how are we not using frabjous in our daily conversational life? Fabulous, joyous. We should be a little dramatic. Just the weather is nice and be like, what a frabjous day. I mean, why not? Oh, frabjous day, kalu kale. So that is the sound he's making out of happiness. He chortled in his joy. Chortle is again a portmanteau of chuckle and snort, and this is the word he has coined, and it is being used now. Chortled. So chortled when you chuckle so hard that you snort and you choke on that snorting. So that is chortled. And the story is quite done. He has slain the Jabberwock, he has come home, and his father is quite happy about that. Quite, he chortled, he literally chortled in his joy. And at the end, the first stanza is just being repeated. That was brilliant, and the steady toe did fire and gimble in the wave, all mipsy were the borogoves, and the moment that felt great. So that was the entire poem. A nonsense poem, but it made sense to us, didn't it? Yeah, so that was all. Thank you. I mean, it's quite fascinating just to imagine that, that sort of animal he had imagined on his own. Um, you see, there are a few things that I want to say, and since I am here, I'll just say it out loud. There are like some things that I have noticed. How language is being used in our daily life. I have seen people correcting grammar, correcting pronunciations, and it's okay as long as you just want to share the knowledge, but it becomes like insulting in some ways, in some cases. And second thing that I have noticed is that people flex on some languages because there is a whole hierarchy of the language. Some people prefer some language over the other, and this is such a stupidicious thing to do. I mean, while language is nothing to reflect upon, well, third thing that I've noticed is that people take a lot of pride on their language because it gives them the sense of belonging that I belong to that place. So I only speak this language. I'm really proud of it. And fourth thing is on the academics. In our academics as well, we tend to focus on grammar a lot. So I'll tell you what bothers me in all the four cases. So the first case, as I said, that if it's just about being humble and letting the other people know, it's okay. But it becomes insulting to some people, so maybe we should avoid it. I mean, the whole point of a language is to understand each other's, whatever the next person is trying to say. And if you get it, then just let it be. As Upman Yusuf says that, call it a pututu, who cares about that? As long as you get it, right? And then the second case where people prefer some languages over other. I mean, I do not understand why so. Because language is just language. Why would you prefer one language over other? It makes absolutely no sense to me because language is a skill. The more language you know, the better. Because you can have a conversation with more people, and that's the whole concept of language. So I do not understand the flexing upon the language. And third comes this sense of belonging, this pride in certain language. Again, I would say that I understand sense of belonging. I really do. You want to belong to a certain place and a certain culture. But you see, we should maybe level up. We should belong to quality now. Let's talk about belonging to a community which has Low crime rate, low rape cases, high educational rate, um, and they appreciate art. They are enthusiastic and passionate about nature. You know, let's belong to qualities, because belonging to objects and places, it's not doing any good to us. That is the evidential thing that we have noticed so far. So yeah, let's belong to qualities now. And the fourth thing about the academics. See, I understand grammar being important because that is what is going to create the base, and upon that base, a whole language is to created, or it has to stand. But at the same time, focusing too much on grammar restricts the creative part. It's just a personal take, and I totally understand if I'm wrong. I I will not say that I'm not. It's just my personal take on it that sometimes focusing too much on the grammar restricts the critical thinking ability and the creative aspect. So we can loosen up a little bit on the grammar, and we can focus on well, it's I am not really sure on my own take on that, because when we go on a professional level, the grammar is in the demand. I mean, yeah, I know it more than anybody else. Uh, But at the same time, I believe that we can loosen up on the grammar and we can focus on the creative part more. So that's all. And see, I'm saying all this in this video because Carol just proved what I was trying to say. He had created words which did not exist, and still we were able to imagine and understand it. I mean, it didn't even exist. The tom tree doesn't exist, but I imagined it. You see, he was understood, and that is the whole point of language. So all I'm trying to say is like that let's make the language fun, because why not? Right? All right, so that's all for today. I hope it's being recorded. I really hope so. And I'll see you the next time. And till then, do whatever you want unless it's hurting somebody else. And